Wall Street veteran Bernard Madoff has been arrested and charged with running a $50 billion Ponzi scheme.
Congress wants to know what caused the Enron meltdown.
Now, while the collective rage currently is focused on WorldCom,
Tyco CEO Dennis Kozlowski was convicted of looting hundreds of millions of dollars.
This is one of the biggest fraud cases ever.
Their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Find out more on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
On June 18th, 1982, a postal clerk was crossing the Blackfriars Bridge, which spanned the River Thames between the London districts of the very confusing and historically rich City of London and Southwark. It was early morning, but the clerk was looking over the edge at the rushing water below when she noticed a large mass seemingly dangling from some scaffolding left up on the side. Upon closer inspection, they noticed this mass was wearing a beautifully tailored suit. Roberto Calvi, a well-known banker in Italy, disappeared from his Rome apartment a week prior to him being found hanging from the scaffolding that day. But he seemed to have fled on his own accord, using a fake passport. He had come under heat when the bank he worked at, Banco Ambrosiano, collapsed. He had even tried once before to take his own life. This time, they assumed he had actually completed the job. But why go all the way to London to end things? And why would he shove 5 bricks in his pockets before leaping from the scaffolding? The tale goes deeper, to an underground network of bankers, clergymen, and mafiosos that spans the decades of turmoil in Italy following World War II, the figurehead of which was known as God's banker, who left multiple lives and banks demolished on his path towards achieving ultimate power. His name was Michele Sindona. And today, 5 years after we first told his story, with a single microphone and no written script at the time, we revisit his world of dark dealings and secret societies on the first of 2 parts on White Collars, Red Hands.
Oh my God, I forgot we used to do this with no script.
Yeah. But believe it or not, this episode, the original me, which I also said his name wrong and have been saying it wrong for 5 years. His name is Michele. But the first time not Michelle, but the first time we covered Michele Sindona, we literally shared a microphone, and this was the impetus. That episode was so in depth, and had so much and was so everywhere that it was the reason we started writing scripts. Because I was like, all right, there's no way we can do this without like writing it down beforehand. And but to this day, that's still my favorite story. And I don't think we did it justice 5 years ago. So we're back now to try and give a more comprehensive telling of the story. Is it more comprehensive? I don't know. I tried. But so welcome back, everybody, to White Collars, Red Hands. I'm Kashan.
And I'm Nina.
Yeah, we're revisiting the story of Michele Sindona. I think I said Michele, that does sound very Italian, to be fair. Michele Sindona.
Yeah, I think we said Michele, but it's Michele.
Yes, I watched multiple of those very annoying YouTube videos where they teach you how to pronounce a word, and it has like a 25-second preamble, and I'm like, just play the word. You know?
Yeah.
It's Michele, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We're going to be doing 2 parts. I'm going to do a 2-parter.
This was, I think, maybe our first fan-submitted episode ever. One of my former classmates from high school contacted me and was like, you guys should, my friend Matt was like, you guys should do this. So.
Which is crazy.
Here we are.
Because I think with the breadth of this story, it's still very underrepresented. I mean, there's never been like a documentary or like a movie about this, and I think it's very marketable to that if someone ever wanted to do it. I mean, you want
to make it down to the interview, Sean?
No, no, I don't. But I think this story, it's very sensational, and it ties itself to many people in power in Italy, and the world, actually. So yeah, let's get into it. On the northeast edge of the island of Sicily, of Italy lies the metropolitan city of Messina, which is made up of 107 comuni, kind of like a county in America. One of these is the shoreline city of Patti, which is known for being destroyed multiple times and being the birthplace to infamous Italian banker Michele Sindona. The Sindona family was well known in the city. Michele's grandfather was a profitable merchant in the area, and the merchant class was basically the upper middle of the 1800s, as we know. They were well off in reputation and in coin, and when a 7.1 magnitude earthquake killed more than 150,000 people in Sicily in 1908, Michele and his wife Nunziata helped rebuild their small city. And since Michele was a merchant, he lent money and sold supplies to those in need, which also earned him a bit of a decent profit on the side. In 1914, the elder Michele went for a swim in the sea, but came home exhausted and passed away in his sleep, probably happy that he had just missed Italy joining World War I. It was like a couple months before they joined World War I.
Good timing.
Yeah, stories are weird on that. Either he died during the swim or he came home and just died that night, but they always mentioned the swim like it was very important to the fact that he died.
Hey, the man liked to swim.
Too much. You know, he was not Michael Phelps. He was not. All right. He was the Michael Phelps of dying after swimming.
Did it the best.
His money went to his wife and to his lone child, a man named Antonino. But the only good Antonino was with money was at losing it. He was a fervent gambler and not a good one at that. His card losses added to Nunziata still trying to give freely to the needy of Patti, and it saw them exhaust their funds fast. She was known for being like too gracious, giving out too much money. So that combined with their son's horrible gambling addiction, they became poor relatively quick. And without a strong patriarch, the only place they could look for more money was in the chapel. They pulled a reverse every tale about a father with too many daughters from 100 years ago and looked to marry Antonino into a middle-class family to bring in some dough. They found the perfect candidate in Maria Castelnuovo. Her dad was a well-off businessman, and she was a sickly spinster 8 years older than Antonino, so it was kind of a win-win. She gets a husband finally, and he gets a dowry.
So she was like, what, 28 and a spinster?
Honestly, something like that. I don't remember her exact age, but it really is something like that, maybe 30.
Under the age of 30.
Yeah, like early 30s, probably.
The spinster, guys.
Well, if it was 100 years ago, yes.
That would be.
The two were wed, and from their union, 2 sons were born, Anio and the big bad from today, Michele, named after his grandfather. The births took a lot out of Maria. She had to get vaginal reconstruction surgery after her second child. And this was in the year... Yes. And it was 1920. So you can imagine how well it went.
We'll get you snatched right back in place. Yeah, don't you worry about it. Your snatch will be better than ever.
Hey, which way does it go? Does it go long ways or does it go sideways? Whatever. Who cares? You're still going to have it.
Hey, don't worry. I'll put in the husband stitch so he'll never know.
Do these 2 holes go together, or are they separate? I can't remember. Someone give me the book. Someone show me the drawn picture. But no, it was serious. It was very serious. From then on, she was mostly bedridden.
Oh shit! All right.
With Michele even later referring to her as an invalid. The one bed she wasn't in, though, was the one with her husband. Antonino slept around pretty much blatantly in front of his wife because after her surgery, she thought that sexual intercourse might literally kill her.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And he made a small living creating flower arrangements for funerals. He was a bit of a florist. He made like wreaths for caskets. But most of the money he got was lost at poker tables. So the family lived in relative poverty. Michele hated his dad for his poorness. He hated his mom for her sickness. But he loved his Gam Nunziata. She inspired him to want to achieve bigger and better things, to bring honor back to the Sindona name, and he tried to do that, at least for a while. Michele applied himself in school and excelled in his studies enough for him to earn a scholarship to attend the University of Messina in 1938. While in high school, Michele worked as a typist and a bookkeeper for his cousin, Vittorio Capodona, who did mostly tax law. So when Michele decided his major at UMass, he decided to continue down that road and graduated in 1942, a lawyer in taxes. Of course, during this time, the backdrop of his country is kind of a terrible one. Italy was fighting with the Axis powers in World War II. Mussolini's fascist state threatened many in the country, but supposedly Michele was against the regime. According to him, he refused to wear the uniform mandated while at the college, and they actually reduced a grade that he had, his grade from actually perfect down to slightly less than perfect because he refused to wear the uniform.
You know what? I stand with him.
This is by his admission. So basically, for today's episode, maybe I should have mentioned this up top. I read one book last time, which is Power on Earth by Nick Tuchis. I'm going to say that. And then I also read a book called St. Peter's Banker by Luigi Defonso. And the first time in Power on Earth, that book is written primarily from interviews with Michele Sindona himself. The writer interviewed Michele Sindona himself. He did supplement it with documentation, but it's primarily from Michele Sindona. St. Peter's Banker was written like maybe a decade later, and it's primarily from interviews with his family and people that knew him, and then also documents. So one of them came just from him, and that's what our first episode was kind of based on. And this one is also flavored with some of the reports from other people. So he himself, though, said that he did not wear the uniform. Of course, even if this is true, he was kind of more against the privatization of business that was happening under Mussolini rather than the social injustices that were perpetrated under his rule. Later, Michele Sindona would actually be part of the largest and most powerful secret society in Italy that had fascist leanings, like neo-fascist leanings at the time. Because by that time, fascism had become just anti-communism, and Michele liked the religious inclinations of fascists because communists usually seek to completely get rid of religious expression, where fascism just forces you to abide by one that is dictated by the government in many, many cases. After college, I mean, yes and no. I mean, technically, we talked about this in... I'll mention this a couple times, but we did an episode also just on the Vatican and some of their financial scandals. And they supported the Nazis primarily in World War II because they at least weren't communists like the USSR was. And technically the Nazis were a Christian state, even though they kind of weren't. That's
so funny that you're a Christian, but you're trying to murder God's chosen people.
I know. But they technically Adolf Hitler was like, we are Christian or whatever, but they didn't really operate that way. Whereas the communists were like blatantly anti-religion. They kind of banned.
Yeah, I did know that they're religion. Like atheists.
Yeah.
Which is why it's illegal to be a missionary in China.
Oh, really? Do they just do doggy style or something?
Mm-hmm.
I realize now that I was trying to do that was a knee slapper joke, but I assume my
Yeah.
pantomime looked like I was actually doing doggy style, and that's not. I just want you to know, and everyone at home that's watching the video that could see me do that. That's not what I was going for.
That's what you were going for. Now I know what it looks like.
It's a happy accident, if anything. So after college, Michele returns to Patty and found his first tax clients in small business owners. The next year, though, Sicily was invaded by the Allies and actually taken from the Axis powers. I'm not super knowledgeable in World War II, history, but I did not know that we led an invasion of Sicily and actually annexed it from the Italians at one point.
I did not know that either, actually.
Well, now you do. This directly led to the fall of Benito Mussolini's regime in Italy. But in their place, America saw to it that those who had helped them create that invasion got positions of power. The only issue is that the mafia actually had a large hand in aiding their invasion, which kind of helped cement the grip of organized crime in the islands.
Wow. Crazy.
In 1943, World War II was officially over in Sicily, at least, and out of the ashes emerged Michele, always with an entrepreneurial mindset. He leased an army truck that was no longer needed by the army that was there, and he decided to play a little arbitrage with lemons and grain. Along the coast of Sicily, where he lived, lemons and citrus were plentiful, but they were more scarce when you got to the inland part of Sicily. The opposite was true of grain. There wasn't a lot of grain on the coast, but there was a lot inland. He would use his truck to drive lemons into the center of the island, traded them for wheat where they were worth more, and then drove the wheat back to Messina, where he could then get a profit on the grain as well. Of course, now that the mafia controlled much of the trade, he needed their approval. So he had some deals for them to provide him with paperwork to cross border patrols with his harvests. From these travels, he met Americans still stationed in the country and mafiosi newly appointed to their positions and became enamored with both. The free market capitalism and power of organized crime promised what Michele had wanted more than anything, to be better and richer than those around him. After marrying his childhood sweetheart, Rena, he invested his citrus and wheat profits into his tax business and realized that if he wanted to really rake it in, he needed somewhere bigger than Patty. And that's why in 1946, he decided to head to the financial capital of Italy, Milan. And there, he would meet the man that would later tie him to the Vatican, Giovanni Montini. In Milan, Michele Sindona grew his tax law business through effective marketing. He started writing opinion columns in newspapers, primarily on a need for tax law reforms. Tax law reforms that would see companies pay less taxes.
Oh, the classic.
And this was excellent marketing for his tax law business because he spun it heavily saying that he was going to get them out of paying the most taxes possible, which maybe wasn't everyone's pitch at the time.
No, probably not.
He was also still entrepreneurial, and when he got a client, he looked over their books, and if he found that their stock was likely undervalued, he would offer to get paid in stock instead of cash. It seemed like a great deal for the business. We don't have to pay you actual money, just give you a little equity in the company. And a lot of his bets paid off. And in 1949, he had made enough to purchase his first company.
Oh, nice.
That year, he bought Pharma Europa, which dealt in really weird commodities like marlin oil and agar-agar, which is used to make culture plates in many a scientific discipline. I've poured many an agar-agar plate in my time.
I've never heard of agar-agar.
Well, it's a big part of my life, so
What is agar-agar?
It is, or originally, I think now they just synthesize it, but it was originally an extract from seaweed, it forces like liquids to become solid. So in bacteriology, you can add it to the media and it becomes solid. So you can grow them on solid media instead of in liquid.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if Michele knew anything about that, but he did buy Pharma Europa and they knew a lot about it. Really, though, he just wanted a company to kind of nepo appoint his dad as the manager of. Be like, I got you back. I got you back, Dad. You fucking wasted all of our money growing up, but I'm going to do you a solid and make you the president of a company. And his dad, he did not know what he was doing. I guess supposedly when he appointed him, he made him president of the company, and then he went to the CEO and he's like, don't have him do anything. just pay him and don't have him do anything.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
But don't point your dad.
I'm sure.
Nepotism.
I feel like there's definitely people doing stuff like that today. I mean,
Oh, 100%. You know that there are.
How much work did Donald Trump Jr. really do?
None.
He's out on the links, all right? A year later, he bought the powerhouse that most of his deals would be done with. Fasco, a stock company in Liechtenstein. Nina, can you tell me, you're good at geography, where is Liechtenstein?
Isn't it kind of like in the Central Europe?
Isn't it in like
Europe?
the Central Europe? Yeah, I guess it's in like the Central Europe.
It's by Germany.
It is by Germany. It's also the fourth smallest country in Europe.
Oh.
So,
what's the first?
I don't know. I didn't look that one up, Nina. I don't know everything. I know what I've looked up on the internet in the past few days. I'm not an encyclopedia.
Vatican City.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be. That's kind of a technicality, though, isn't it?
Then it's Monaco. Gibraltar. That one. I've never heard of that.
I've heard of their rock.
Jersey, Liechtenstein.
Damn, is my information out of date? It's like the sixth smallest country?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, I wasn't even right. Oh, that sucks. Anyway, it's a small country. And he would use this holding company for future purchases because Liechtenstein is also famous for being a tax haven country. So at least was. I think they've tightened up, just like Switzerland. They've kind of tightened up on it because they got a really bad rep. And now it's moved to other places, obviously. But that same year, he became CEO of a film company of all things, and also made his first $1 million. Not in the films. Okay. Not in the films, but in real estate.
Okay.
He bought land all throughout the shoreline of Italy, depressed still in the wake of the war, which he would later turn for a profit. Meanwhile, throughout this decade, he bankrolled the purchasing of many companies on his early success as a tax lawyer and real estate broker. He bought publishing companies, cement and steel companies, and got into banking, buying small banks, first in Banca Privata Finanziaria, as well as Banca Union.
Okay.
Which it just means private finance bank in Italy, in Italian, by the way. Banca Privata Finanziaria. Anyway, I'm going to be referring to that as BPF from here on out, by the way. I say it a couple times. BPF. I'm not saying that anymore.
Come on.
The audience can only get so wet from me butchering Italian, okay? I got to cut that out, right? I can't leave that in.
You shouldn't be doing that to people.
Jesus Christ. The government, however, was not so interested in the growing power of Michele Sindona and his free market capitalism, as more and more communists were elected to office opposing the Vatican-backed Christian Democrats. This mutual enemy eventually joined Michele and the future Pope Paul VI, Giovanni Montini. In 1954, Giovanni Montini, who grew up a poor boy in a small town of Italy, he was known as the Hamlet Pope when he finally became Pope. He was appointed the Archbishop of Milan after serving as a faithful advisor to Pope Pius XII for many years. The two originally met after communists spoke out about Montini saying mass at factories. Oh, they did not like that. As they wanted...
Oh, they were holding mass in factories?
Yeah, and they wanted religion away from the working man. Michele came to the Archbishop's aid, and the two formed a friendship from that. They used to, like, go together, I guess, to companies. Or to these factories. Huh?
And then they both would perform mass.
Well, Montini would. He was the Archbishop of Milan. I think Michele was just like, he was just there because he knew people. Oh. He was well connected, so he could get people to get off their back.
Makes sense.
In 1958, Montini was promoted to cardinal, and 1 year later, he wanted to build a house for the elderly, but needed to source $2 million. Good thing he knew a multimillionaire, as Sindona would help him raise the money personally, and he did it in a single day. Now, how did he get $2 million in a single day, Nina? You know, I'll give you 3 guesses. 3 guesses. You go ahead. Hey, what do you think he did?
Drugs.
Okay. No, not directly.
Burglary.
No, it's not it either.
Embezzlement.
Ooh, you're close. You're close. You're kind of close. What if I told you the CIA gave it to him?
That sounds accurate.
Well, it's because, at least very likely, the CIA gave it to him. It turned, although they've never officially declared that they worked with Michele Sindona, there have been multiple.
Well, why would they?
Well, I'm getting. Why would they?
Sorry.
Why would they verify it, or why would they do it?
Say that again.
Why would they verify it, or why would they do it in the first place?
No, why would they verify it?
Oh, I mean, it's fair. I don't know.
They never say when they do things they're not supposed to do.
Multiple reports from like previous CIA agents have leaned in that direction, though, that they were well known with Michele Sindona because the CIA was actually funneling money into like Catholic-backed projects in Italy because they opposed communism in the country and they saw communism as a threat. So they gave a bunch of money to post up the Christian Democrats and the Vatican in the country so that they could strengthen the anti-communist movement.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
And they did a lot of work with Michele Sindona because of his later involvement with the Vatican and his really strong capitalist ideologies in Italy at the time. Montini returned the favor by introducing Michele to high-ranking officials within the Vatican's personal banking service, the Istituto per le Opere di Religione. Yeah, there we go. Or the IOR, the IOR for short, which we've talked about on a whole episode, like I mentioned earlier. And this saw Michele Sindona become a financial advisor to the IOR, where he helped broker deals for them, including for the BPF, which Michele would come to own with their backing in 1960, as well as the backing of some American companies. So he was backed by everyone. I mean, technically there's some subtext to that, like the Vatican technically bought the bank first and then got some flack for it, so they had to immediately resell it to Michele. But in the end, he got a bank, so I think he was all right.
He was fine.
And he developed some connections in America, which he was constantly trying to do. After acquiring his bank, he received a call to meet one Enrico Cuccia. That's what I'm going with Cuccia. You could go Cuccia, but I'm pretty sure it's Cuccia.
Well, I know all about the Cuccia.
I bet you do. Cuccia was a big shot in the banking world, being the first president of Mediobanca, who served from 1946 to 1982. Mediobanca was the state-backed bank of Italy. And he went there after serving on the public holding company set up under Mussolini, the Istituto per la Ricostruzione Industriale. There you go. Or the IRI for short. So, fascism, everything's owned by the government. So the IRI was the public holding company that was where the government bought and sold all of their companies through. And then he switched from that to working at the state-owned bank. So this guy is very
well connected.
Very well connected, very tied to, he's very against free markets. We'll say that. Whereas Michele Sindona is obviously very for free markets. He's very capitalist. And no one got into banking without being known by Enrico Cuccia. And he felt slighted by Sindona's entrance into the space without ever being able to meet the man. So he invited him to his office. They were opposites, but somehow much the same. Sindona was a vehement capitalist who wore fancy suits, and Cuccia was a socialist who made a point to wear ill-fitting suits and play poor. Both, however, wanted the same thing, absolute power. When they met, although so outwardly opposite, they both bonded over a love for Nietzsche, of all things, and his philosophy.
What's that?
Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher.
Oh. I didn't learn philosophy.
Well, you're about to learn a little bit. And you also learned this.
I know Aristotle.
You
That's
also
it.
learned this 5 years ago, believe it or not.
Dude, you think shit? No.
I guess not. Well, they bonded over a love of Nietzsche, of all things, and his philosophy behind the Übermensch. Very briefly, the idea of the Übermensch is that there is a person, an ideal human sometime in the future who transcends conventional morality, creating their own values and meaning for life. That what they do may outwardly seem immoral, but they are so moral that their decisions aren't even understood by the normal person. They are the Übermensch, which also means like Superman, by the way.
Well, I was going to say, wouldn't this be similar to the Messiah?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, maybe, but loosely, I don't know.
Okay.
But
I guess that this person isn't going to save humankind, right? Like the Messiah.
They're kind of the savior, but it's like it's not like one person. It's like anyone can be it's this idea of humanity that people become the Übermensch. Like there is this idea of the Übermensch that is possible.
Got you.
The problem is that every frat bro and rich asshole thinks they're the Übermensch. They're not the Übermensch.
Why would they be the Übermensch?
Because they think they're better than everybody. So they're like, but I must be the Übermensch, which means that I can do whatever I want. Because in the end, all of my actions are justified for the benefit of humanity. So that's why I can, just take money away from old people now, because what I'm really doing is I'm making the future of humanity better. This is all from Friedrich Nietzsche, who was a crackpot who was high on opium most of the time, all right? None of his ideas are even close to being supported in modern psychology. They didn't know that then, maybe, back then. But still, the guy's crazy. So either way, the two formed a weird business union and started doing real estate deals together. So at this point, Michele Sindona has his fingers in banking, both private and public, the Catholic Church, and the CIA. And he's from an island. This guy is basically the Jeffrey Epstein of post-World War II Italy. I will not be taking any notes.
Well, I mean, he's extremely well connected.
Weirdly so.
Weirdly.
Questionably so. You know?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I've never heard him be accused of is being a pedophile, which I know is Jeffrey Epstein's biggest thing. But he's
That's like his number one thing.
He could be. You could describe him as Jeffrey Epstein, maybe without the pedophilia stuff, which means people are going to care a lot less about it. I know, but it's fine.
Yeah, no one's going to care about it. They just want to know about the pedophilia. I
know. And his influence was only growing. By 1963, Sindona owned $50 million in real estate alone, and was in America inking a deal to buy Libby McNeil and Libby, a meat company in Chicago. They make corned beef in partnership with another episode topic of ours, Nestle. He was a partial partner. He retained the Italian rights to it, and then they got some more international rights, whatever. While there, his ties to the Vatican got a big upgrade when Pope John the 23rd died, and in a landslide, the cardinal from Milan, Giovanni Montini, was quickly elected his successor, forever becoming Pope Paul VI. Sindona was now personal friends with the Pope.
That's got some benefits. You're definitely going to heaven when you're friends with the Pope. You can do whatever you want when you're friends with the Pope.
Okay. While in America, Michele also met members of the Gambino crime family, expanding not only his above-board empire, but his one that operated in Nero, in black. He also made connections with Bob Lehman, who would later go on to found the topic of, again, another one of our episodes, the Lehman Brothers Bank.
Jesus Christ, they're all connected.
Like a shitty white collar crime tapestry. Yes, they are. That's why I'm saying the Jeffrey Epstein of post World War II Italy. I'm just saying. In fact, the hits keep coming because not only would Sindona have ties to the Pope, he would also have ties to a future U.S. president. After losing the presidential election in 1960 to JFK, former Vice President Richard Nixon eventually found himself once again practicing law in New York in 1963. Their paths crossed when Nixon represented an oil man who wanted to do business with Sindona. The two met, they hit it off, and they lunched together multiple times. So he was also a personal acquaintance of a U.S. president as well. Back at home in Italy, the dichotomy of Sindona and Cuccia was finally torn apart after a deal they had entered into together to buy a steel company turned sour, and Michele was being accused of money mismanagement during the deal, which was probably true. After that, Michele discovered that Cuccia had been taking money as bribes from private banks to have an equal voting power in the dealings of Mediobanca as to that of the IRI, and by default then, the Italian people. So he was taking bribes to have private companies have more influence of what the state-run bank was doing than the government.
That's crazy.
So when Cuccia approached Sindona asking for a slice of stock in his bank, Michele refused, turning the precarious friendship into an outright rivalry from then on out. Of course, Michele, as we know, had extremely loose morals. Operating with some of the most evil entities on the planet. And I'm meaning the ones besides the Catholic Church. He would often launder dirty money from these partners using classic hits, such as move money out of the country to a numbered bank account, and now no one knows how illegally baller you are. Charge a shell company you own a tax haven. Charge a shell company you own in a tax haven for services you never actually rendered. Buy a property for less than what it is actually worth on paper, give the difference to the seller under the table, and later sell on paper for what it was actually worth plus more. Pay taxes on the profit, and your money is clean, yo. Conspire with another company to double bill you, and then they also give you a kickback under the table. Man, under the table sure is getting crowded. And Sindona's
Here under this table.
And Sindona's personal favorite, buy options on foreign currency from a shell company that you yourself own. You lose some money to the bank brokering the deal, but you have now cleaned your money.
Hell yeah.
Later confessions from mafiosi report that Sindona was doing a lot of this for the Gambino crime family to clean their profits from the heroin trade in America. Funny enough, though, he did not drink or do drugs. So he just made millions of dollars on the back of other people doing it. So,
hey, you can't get high on your own supply, man.
But, I don't want you thinking that Michele had no time for play, though. Okay? And you're probably thinking, oh, Kajan, was he cheating on his wife, Rena? Yeah, but that's not what I'm referring to, okay? Michele had plenty of time amongst running multiple companies and laundering money for the mob to join a club or two on the side, okay? It's just that this club was a technically illegal secret society for all of the wealthiest, most influential people in Italy. All right, it's not the knitting club. Maybe he did that too, but it's not in the book because people don't care. Through mutual connections, Michele met a man named Licio Gelli, who was a high-ranking member of the secret society Propaganda Due, which I actually think is Propaganda Due or something. I don't know. It's in Italian. Whatever. I'm going to call it P2, which is the abbreviation for it. P2 had been created as a Freemason society in 1877 and counted among their members multiple high-ranking politicians and businessmen of Italy. P2, along with, which, by the way, I didn't mention here, including the three leaders of all of the Secret Service branches in Italy. They were all P2 members. P2, along with all other secret societies, had officially been banned in the country under Article 18 of the Constitution of Italy, penned under Mussolini's rule. Although they originally opposed Mussolini's rule, Licio Gelli had begun to favor a dictatorship, and he was growing as pretty much the leader of P2 at this time, and would later be elected as the Grand Master of the Masonic Order. One thing they definitely was violently anti-communist, as I had mentioned previously, which meant that even though Sindona did not agree with all of Gelli's talking points, he was still down to join when the option arose in 1964. Everything P2 has done in its history could honestly be a whole episode in itself. They did a lot of terrible stuff. There's a lot of deep history there that I'm not going to necessarily go into. But oftentimes, they or the mafia was the muscle that Sindona would call upon to do the especially dirty work that might need to be done, which we will hear more about primarily next week. But for now, know that a bunch of rich people stood around in cloaks and took pagan oaths because it made them feel cool.
It's cool.
I mean, it's not that cool, all right? It's not that cool. Like an eyes wide shut party. It's not that cool, Their main mission, however, was pretty serious. They wanted to funnel the lire, which was the currency of Italy at the time, out of the country, exchange it for more valuable currency, and then start buying up companies in Italy with that higher valued outside currency in a move to try to destabilize the entire economy of Italy and kind of cause hyperinflation and make the lire worthless. And then once things toppled, P2 could uproot the communists and establish a new dictatorship under their rule, which definitely puts Sindona's spending spree on companies a little into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Michele just wanted no more communists, but He was like, I'll join the neo-fascist Masonic secret society to get that done. Sure. This is also around the time the IOR started to hurt a little bit. They had put this guy named Paul Marcinkus in charge of the place, and he was extremely underqualified. This guy was hashtag thick as a brick, physically and maybe mentally. I don't know. He was 6'3". He was from Chicago, like our current Pope, from Cicero, Chicago specifically. And he could handle himself in a fight. All right. That's why Montini, the new Pope, made him his unofficial bodyguard and also later a cardinal. Why he chose him for heading up the IOR, though, I don't know. Because he had no prior banking experience. He got a couple weeks of training and then like a week or two of observing other banks just like out in the world. And then they were like, yeah, you be the secretary now. And then he did that for a couple years. They were like, yeah, you could be the president, actually.
Yeah, you got this.
He did not, actually. Pope Paul VI had asked Sindona to consult for the IOR in the late 1960s, in 1969 specifically, because they were coming under some hard times. Some bad decisions had been made with the IOR, and they wanted someone to get them out of it. And they knew one of the biggest money men in the entire country, so they called upon Michele Sindona. And Marcinkus then became president of the IOR in 1971, so the pair knew each other very well. Sindona knew that Marcinkus entrusted money to people who did not operate as cleanly as him. And by cleanly, I mean that they got caught more often. Because he had actually loaned money to a California stockman who immediately got them involved with SEC violations. Also, at the same time, the U.S. actually questioned Marcinkus related to millions of dollars in fake bonds that were delivered to the Vatican. So there was a lot of pressure on the IOR at this time. And Sindona also knew that the IOR made a lot of money by illegally allowing people to funnel lire out of the country and then depositing funds in other currencies into their accounts elsewhere, like in numbered accounts in Switzerland. Because at the time, because people were trying to destabilize the country's economy so badly, there were amounts set in place that you could, of like the local currency that you could funnel out of the country. And it was very low. So they were trying to keep it all in the country. So the IOR was like, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Because they're technically another country, so they can kind of get away with it. Sindona disliked Marcinkus, but the cardinal listened to him for the most part, so they got along all right, at least for a while. Also, in the late 1960s, Sindona would meet the man who would later be found swinging from Blackfriars Bridge, Roberto Calvi. Calvi worked at Banco Ambrosiano, a small but well-liked bank in Milan. It was named after the patron saint of Milan, actually. And he had approached Sindona to get Banco Ambrosiano in with BPF in international dealings. This deal saw Calvi become director of the bank and further tied them to Sindona and, by default, the IOR. Unknowingly, this is what would send Sindona on his downfall. When Banco Ambrosiano collapsed years later, so would the rest of Sindona's empire. And speaking of collapses, if you're not up to date on your Italian history, this divide that was brewing between the far right and far left also exploded at the end of the 1960s in something known as the Years of Lead. Unrest from workers against harsh conditions was displayed in the hot autumn strikes of 1969. A police officer was killed in a Marxist protest later that year. And then things really went off the rails when right-wing terrorists responded by bombing a piazza, killing 17 in December of that year. Tensions were rising, and there were targets on the backs of both powerful communists and capitalists alike. And if you believe Michele, he was one of those. Supposedly fearful for his life because P2 actually had their own part in perpetrating some of the bombings throughout the country at the time. They were one of the terrorist groups.
Oh, shit.
He decided it was high time that he left Italy for good. He left his wife and kids, by the way. He was like, hey, Rena, you stay here with the kids.
Like, you got this, right? You guys will be okay?
No one wants to kill you. They want to kill me, okay? You guys aren't shit. I'm a hotshot.
You're gonna be fine. It's fine.
I'm a hotshot who people want to kill. What have you done with your life? Nag. That's right, Rena. I'm out of here.
Break your legs and nag. That's the only thing you've ever done.
And he moved to Geneva, Switzerland, and lived above Finnebank, which he had done some deals with in the past. In like an apartment that was like above, like a very nice apartment above the bank. He didn't just like
above the bank.
He didn't live in a bank. Okay, I just want to make that clear. Shortly afterward, late at night, a woman came calling to his apartment, an agent of the Italian Communist Party, but one who knew Sindona personally. She warned him that someone was coming to kill him that night in less than an hour. He, of course, accompanies this young woman to her hotel room for his safety. And when he
You must come with me. It's unsafe. You must come to my hotel room. Yeah, I should. Yeah, I should.
That's not even vaguely Italian. What the fuck?
I'm not trying to be Italian. I'm just saying.
Obviously not. He, of course, accompanied the woman to her hotel room. And when he returned in the morning, he found his door had been expertly broken, but nothing had been stolen. Michele decided then he was maybe still a bit too close to home. So he moved once more, this time to America, where his downfall... I think I still have that eagle screech sound effect. There we go. This time, where his downfall was waiting for him in the form of the Franklin National Bank. Michele Sindona was about to get even more fabulously wealthy than he already was, but his time was coming. And next week, we pick back up with Michele's purchase and ruining of Franklin National Bank and how it sunk many others along with it, and how those circumstances led to the murders of at least 2 people directly.
Dun, dun, dun.
So thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to hear the conclusion to the Michele Sindona story, please tune back in next week. If you like what you heard this week and you're anticipatory for what's happening next week, please go ahead and give us a review. You can write a review on Apple Podcasts, or you can leave us a star review there or on Spotify. If you check us out on Spotify, you can also watch our videos. We record the podcast. Check out the videos there, or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whitecollarsredhands. You can also send us our messages on our social media. Blanked on the name there for a second. That's what it's called. That thing that ruins and runs people's lives nowadays. It's social media. Yes. It's facebook.com/whitecollarsredhands, X at whitecollarspod, Instagram at whitecollars_redhands. You can also check us out on TikTok at whitecollarsredhands. You can send us an email if you're old. That's fine. whitecollarsredhands@gmail.com. We'll respond maybe even sometimes if I'm not scared by your email. I hate responding to emails. It's a downfall of mine. So if you sent us one and I didn't respond, just know that I freaked out about it for like a day and then just decided not to send anything. Okay? You can also contact us, though, if you go to our website, whitecollarsredhands.com. There's a contact us page on there. So it goes to the same email. So I'll do the exact same process. But you can do that. There's also a button on there that says, check out our merch. And you're not going to believe this. If you click that button.
Is there merch?
Yeah, it's our merch. So you can buy a hat, a t-shirt, a sticker. It's something fun for the family, you know? So go ahead, do that. And you know the best way to support us, though, is word of mouth. Talk to people. Oh, yeah. We're assuming that if you listen to us, you're cool, right? You're cool. You have friends.
Yeah.
And you have friends, and you talk to people about stuff. right? Make us one of those stuff. And yeah, I think that's it. Nina's dying, so we're gonna leave.
I am sorry, guys. I'm not feeling well.
So we're gonna head out. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week on the stunning conclusion of the Michele Sindona double feature on the next episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
Yes.